Hey everybody, it's me Chris. I'm back over here in the kitchen. I'm getting ready to make some Italian wedding soup. And I've had a couple people asking me about Italian wedding soup. My wife's friend Rosie and a couple other people wanting to know the recipe. So apparently it's pretty good the way I make it. So let me show you the ingredients we got today. So take a look. I got some carrots and celery and onions here, and that's what's called a mirepoix. That's the base of our soup. I got some escarole, a couple bunches of escarole here, and I got them in this straining basket. I'm going to clean them really good. I got a can of white beans that I already rinsed and drained. That's not a usual ingredient for the Italian wedding soup, but I like it. It really goes well with the escarole. The pasta we're going to use, this is already cooked. This is called acini di pepe. And what that means is specks of pepper. I guess that's what it looks like. Or it's also referred to as pearl pasta. I got some finely minced garlic, some pecorino cheese. I'm going to use that in the meatballs. I got some chicken stock and bouillon cubes. I love to add a combination of both. I think it gives it a really unique flavor. Sometimes I'll mix up the bouillon cubes also. I'll use vegetable and chicken, and it just makes a really tasty soup. For the meatballs, I'm using ground turkey. It's about 1.5 pounds. I got some fresh parsley also for the meatballs. I got some of my homemade breadcrumbs, and of course some extra virgin olive oil, fresh pepper, and kosher salt. So let me clear this down, and I'll show you how we start the process to make our Italian wedding soup. So the first thing I want to do is show you how I finished chopping my vegetables. So for the celery, all I did was I cleaned it and washed it, I cut it in half, and I'm going to cut each stalk in half and just run my knife through. Make bite-sized pieces. And I saved this part here with the leaves. The celery leaves are very flavorful. I always save them and use them in soup, so I'm going to cut that up as well. So for the carrots, I'm going to cut this one in half. And then what I did is I just cut each half in half. And then I run my knife through about a 1/4 inch piece. So for my onion, I want a fine dice. So I'll just make 2 cuts. And then run my knife down. And start to cut. And when you get to the end here, just cut it like that. For my garlic, I want a nice fine dice. So I'll cut the stem off, and that's the part that holds the paper on, and just push it down with my knife. That should have the paper come right off. The paper's off. I just run my knife and slice it long ways. And then with my hand on top, make sure you don't get any paper in there. Just start to chop until you get a nice fine dice. Alright, so the first thing I want to do now that I got my veggies chopped, I got to make the flavoring for my meatballs. And the turkey meat is dry, so it needs some help. There's not a lot of fat in there. So I got some olive oil heating up, some extra virgin olive oil. Let me add a little bit more. I want like a couple of tablespoons to help moisten the turkey. And then I'm going to put about half of my garlic. And I'm going to add some of the onions. I'm going to season these with some salt and pepper, and I'm going to saute them until they're nice and soft. Alright, so this looks good. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to let it cool off. Alright, so my meatball flavoring is cooling, and we're ready to start to make the soup. So I got my large Dutch oven. This is a 7-quart enamel Dutch oven. I'm going to put in a couple of tablespoons of the extra virgin olive oil. And then all of my mirepoix, my carrot, celery, and onion are going to go right in. Alright, so my carrot, celery, and onions are in. I'm going to add the rest of the chopped garlic. And it's not a lot of garlic. I don't like too much garlic in my soup. And I'm going to season this right away with a good amount of kosher salt and fresh cracked pepper. So while my carrot, celery, onions, and garlic starts to sweat, and I want to sweat it, I don't want to cook it down, I just want to get it going and take out some of the moisture. I'm going to work on my escarole. So I just take the rubber band off, and what I do is just cut this stem off here. And you got to make sure you wash this good because you can get a lot of dirt in here. So I'm going to put it into my basket like this. I'm going to take this all to the sink and I'm going to wash it really, really well. Alright, so I washed my escarole really well, I drained it, and now I think I'm ready to start to add the broth. And you can see these starting to cook down. The onions are getting very soft and translucent. I don't want to cook it any more than that. So I got my chicken stock here. I'm going to add the can. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And then I'm going to add my bouillon cubes to get those dissolved. And what you want to do when you're using these bouillon cubes is check the instructions. It'll tell you how many cups of water per cube. So the ones I have call for 2 cups for every cube of bouillon. And I know I usually use about 12 cups of water for a large pot of soup like this. But I am going to reduce it. And I did add some chicken stock. So I would recommend you start with 3 cups of water for every one. And then you can always add one later on. Taste your soup and see how you like the broth. So I'm just going to add them in now and give it a stir. Alright, so while the stock starts to come to a boil, I'm going to start to chop my escarole. And this is a very important step. You want to make sure you chop it small enough, or else it's going to be long and stringy, and it's going to wrap around your spoon. So I start by cutting down this way into thin strips, and then I'll come across the other way to make small pieces. And I'll just do a little bit at a time, and as I go, I'll just add it right to the pot. Alright, so that's the last of my escarole. I got both bunches in. And you can use less or more depending on how much you like it. I really like the escarole, so I always use 2 bunches. And my stock's starting to boil. I'm just going to give this a quick stir. Alright, so my stock is boiling. I'm going to start to add the rest of my water. And this is 8 cups. I'm probably going to add another 4 to 6 cups and bring the whole thing to a boil. So I added about 14 cups of water. I'm going to put the beans in now. And I added all that escarole and all the beans, so I'm going to add a little bit more seasoning. I want some kosher salt and some cracked pepper. And I'm just going to let this whole thing come up to a boil. Alright, so I'm just going to pick off some of the leaves on the parsley for my meatballs. And I'm going to give this a chop. Alright, that looks good. I'm just going to put this right into my turkey meat. So I'm going to season my ground turkey. Good amount of kosher salt. Some cracked pepper. I like a lot of pepper. I have my egg. I'll just mix it a little. Put that in. My breadcrumbs. This is the cooled mixture of the extra virgin olive oil with the onions and garlic. Put that in. That looks good. And some pecorino cheese. And I want to grate a good amount of this, at least 1/4 to 1/2 cup. Alright, so I think that's enough cheese. I like a really cheesy meatball, so I'm just going to start to mix this now with my fork. Alright, so my soup's come to a nice boil, and I leave it uncovered. I never cover my soup. And now I can start to add the meatballs, and these are mixed really, really well. Okay, and what I have here is just some water. Wet your fingers so that it doesn't stick. And this is a little bit of a tedious process, but you want really small little bite-sized meatballs. Okay, like a marble size, and you're just going to add them right to the soup one by one. So it'd be good to have a little helper in the kitchen. Alright, so there it is, the last meatball. Probably about 40-50 meatballs in there. And now at this point, you can see they set up right away as soon as they go in. Now at this point, all you got to do is wait. I'm going to clean up, and I'm going to let this soup continue to boil away, and I want to cook it for at least 40 minutes to an hour. and we'll be ready to try it. Alright, so my soup is done, my Italian wedding soup. I let it boil for about 40 minutes and it's ready to serve. And I checked it for seasoning. I didn't need to add any more bouillon. So I'm going to show you how I like to serve this up. I got my nice soup bowl here. And I'm going to give myself a nice little portion there. Probably about 5 meatballs. Okay. And now I have my cooked pasta, my acini di pepe, my pearl pasta. I'm going to put a couple of spoonfuls in there. Give that a stir. And then I got these, I like to serve it with these peppers. I got some Italian style hot cherry peppers. So I'm just gonna cut it, a couple pieces off of there. And these could be very, very hot. So I'm not gonna use a bunch. I'll just slice them into small pieces. And it's gonna add a really nice pop of flavor. Put that right in the middle. And then the last thing I'll do is, well, let me grab a towel, just wipe this plate off a little bit. And I got my pecorino cheese right over the top. Alright, time to give this a try. I'm going to grab a little piece of the meatball, a carrot, and a piece of pepper. Really, really incredible. In my opinion, this takes a little bit of work, but in my opinion, this is the king of all soups. And I hope my fan likes it. My only fan, Rosie, my wife's gonna bring some to work for her tomorrow. So you gotta try this Italian wedding soup. It'll really blow you away. It takes a few steps, but if you get some help rolling those little mini meatballs, it's not that bad. Don't forget, look for me on YouTube, Chris Smith, Giovanna Family Recipes. Thanks for watching the video.